to the Rock Talk Studio, the place to find your next great rock and roll book or documentary. This is the podcast that reviews, previews, and most importantly, recommends to you the good stuff. Like today's book, American Standard, about one of the most quirkiest but deeply respected bands in rock and roll. I'm your host, Big Rick. Join me for an exclusive look into what's hitting the shelves and the screens, and get ready to rock your reading and viewing lists. And today, the spotlight falls on the book American Standard, Cheap Trick from the Bars to the Budokan and Beyond by Ross Warner. Cheap Trick is one of Homer Simpson's favorite bands. Mike Damone from the movie Fast Times at Ridgemont High gushed over their songs Dream Police, I Want You to Want Me, and Surrender. They have also sold over 20 million albums. And that's what this book, Cheap Trick, American Standard, strives to point out, that this band is like no other. Their story is full of near misses, incredible dumb luck, and just as much incredible bad luck. Warner uses exhaustive research and interviews to trace the early beginnings of how this unique band formed their sound and following. He uses a ton of sources to chart the multitude of disjointed steps this band took to stardom. He relied on Ken Adame, one of Cheap Trick's managers, to help tell a lot of the behind-the-scenes stories, and he also leaned heavy on Susan Masino, a rock journalist who at the time was working at Cheap Trick's record label. But you also get great quotes from critics, especially one from Cream Critic. Remember Cream Magazine? I loved that magazine growing up. You get a great review from the one and only Lester Bangs. Rockford, Illinois, in 1973 was where it all began for this very different foursome. They started out as a club band with a bizarre stage presence, but parlayed a ton of hard work into millions of album sales and a legacy that's still going on. And this book is all about their journey from Rockford to fame. And it's a tale filled with chance encounters, rock excess, and a sound that turned them into icons, especially in Japan. And especially because of the live Budokan record that came out in '78. The story of that album alone could make for a great book. And Warner here gives this part of the book, as he should, the royal treatment. This book is extremely well researched and chock full of the hard to believe that actually happened stories. This to me is one of the highlights of the book. And Cheap Trick will forever be known for this record, the Budokan record. But what this book does is it also gives you the story of the fallout from that record and how the band carried on to this day. They were the quirky band that conquered the world, and all the hows and whys are explored in the pages. The book is a little thin towards the last part of their career. I mean, Budokan is such a pinnacle, something they never reached again, but I would have enjoyed probably another 100 pages on the post-Budokan days to fill in the story. You get 256 pages with this book, but I enjoyed it so much I wanted a little bit more. The book moves their story along at a pretty good pace, but with enough texture that you understand the lengths that this band went to make it, especially as a live act. There is really no way to tell the Cheap Trick story without delving into their grind and their tenacious attitude about playing shows. And the author builds a nice momentum by including a lot of quotes from different sources that knew this band was going to make it. And he talks about their fanatical early fan base and looks at how they went from really just a cult following into rock legends. There's a bunch of great pictures that help tell the story. I enjoy a book that doesn't just do a photo dump in the middle of the book or has a couple of sections of photos, but instead kind of spreads the photos out throughout the book and also uses the pictures to tell the story. That was a really nice touch. Warner starts the book off with a great sentence. This is a band with many myths, and this book is full of them. It's almost comical how many there are, and that in itself fits this band perfectly. Their quirky nature, the unique pairing of the bandmates, and the backbone of this story, the improbable success, and how they transcended genre to create something that was really unique in rock and roll. Cheap Trick, American Standard, written by Ross Warner, is a tale of a band full of grit, genius, and incomparable moments, one that solidifies the power of this unique and legendary band, and the story of a band that inspired so many rockers. And that leads me into today's one big question about this book. Why do so many rock and roll stars love this band? The next big question is coming up next, but I've got another question for you. Substack, are you into it? Have you heard of it? It's a subscription-based platform that allows writers and journalists and other content creators to publish newsletters and connect with their audience. And after a few months of looking at it, I finally found the mojo to dive in and create the Rock Talk Studio monthly blast, something that I feel has really become a needed extension of this podcast. And that was my initial goal going in, was create something that can provide more. And what I'm able to do with the blast is extend the conversation about new rock and roll books and docs and give you a monthly reference that keeps you up to date with that world. Subscriptions right now are free. Just send over an email. And if you want to join the blast, all you have to do is send me an email at info@rocktalkstudio.com. The blast comes out on the last Friday of every month. I will also list the email address in the show notes so you can find it there. One more thing I want to mention about Substack and newsletters. Being on Substack now has given me a chance to meet a lot of different creators, and I want to tip you on one that writes an excellent music newsletter, and that is Kevin at On Repeat Records. On Repeat is described as sitting at the intersection of music discovery and community, helping people find a new favorite song or remember a forgotten gem. I found a bunch of great recommendations from this newsletter. This is a good one. Check it out, On Repeat Records newsletter. Let's jump back into this week's one big question, and that is, why do so many rock and rollers love and admire Cheap Trick? Here's a quick list of some of the artists influenced by the band. You got Nirvana, Kurt Cobain loved Cheap Trick, Green Day, Pearl Jam, the Melvins, Smashing Pumpkins, and the Replacements. That's just a few names that have called Cheap Trick an inspiration. Billy Corgan, the frontman of Smashing Pumpkins, has expressed his admiration for Cheap Trick a bunch of times. He has said that Cheap Trick's influence is obvious and that their place among the greats is secure. Corgan also said that the song Tonight Tonight is a tribute to Cheap Trick, which I thought was pretty cool. In the past, Green Day has covered Surrender during their live shows and combined it with the Replacements' Bastards of Young, creating what Green Day called their Midwest melody. And one of the main reasons why I posed this question was because the book has a foreword by Mike McCready of Pearl Jam, who talks about when he was first starting to play guitar and how Cheap Trick's album Heaven Tonight was a huge inspiration, even claiming Surrender was the anthem for his generation. His high school band played a bunch of Cheap Trick songs, and he even dressed up as Rick Nielsen for Halloween. That's how deep his infatuation ran. McCready ends the foreword by sharing a story about how his wife surprised him on his 50th birthday and actually arranged for Cheap Trick to play at his party. The life of a rock star. How cool is that? Okay, before I wrap up the show today, I have to talk about this new movie that is about to come out in a few weeks, probably the biggest documentary to be released in 2025. So I wanted to throw a quick reminder in. The long in the works Led Zeppelin movie, Becoming Led Zeppelin, is coming to theaters. It is only in theaters at this time, and that is IMAX theaters, and it starts showing on February 7th. I'm going to do my best to get out there to see this one and let you know all about it. I know there's a ton of Zeppelin fans that listen to the Rock Talk Studio, so I wanted to make sure I kept you up on this one. Becoming Led Zeppelin, February 7th. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Love talking rock and roll and being able to give you a scoop on a tile I think is worth your time and money. Next week, I've got a great doc about a place where Tom Petty, Slash, Joe Bonamassa, and Lenny Kravitz, to name a few, like to hang out and play guitars. All right, folks, tear it down, pack it up, and head on down the road. We'll see you next time in the Rock Talk studio.